started for tonight. So welcome everybody to our fourth webinar, Understanding Attention Behaviour. We're Hatchlings London. We're specialists in early childhood development and behaviour. And yeah, we run a little business where we support parents in nurseries of children between 12 months and 7 years. But I'll get onto that in a minute. All of our other webinars are available on YouTube. You can find the links on our Facebook page or on our website, but we'll also put that up at the end for you. So hi, and thank you for coming. All three of we are an early childhood development behaviour company, as I said before. We have three directors, myself, Jessica. We also have Kaylin, who's on with us tonight, and Erin, who's also sitting in tonight, but Erin's currently on maternity leave, so she's not participating, just watching. So Erin, Kaylin and I will be hosting tonight's webinar on attention behaviour. So today we'll be looking at attention. We'll do a quick recap of 4 functions of behaviour. Now, if you want to learn more about what these 4 functions are, we have, again, in one of our previous webinars, some information on that, and we are slowly going through each function individually and going through some detailed explanations. So we go through what is attention behaviour, some examples of common situations that people kind of come to us with, and some solutions and strategies to help you manage and reshape behaviour to work towards better outcomes. And then we will have some time for questions at the end as well. We had quite a lot of questions last week, and you can send your questions through as we go. I think Kaylin's going to try and catch them. We will try and get to as many as we can. So the 4 functions of behaviour. Now, everybody eats is the way that we remind ourselves on what these 4 functions are. Another way to think of functions is drivers, or the why we do our behaviour. So E stands for escape. So that's escape from a demand situation or person. A is for attention. A child wants yours or someone else's attention. T is for tangible. So this is tangible access to a physical object or item, something that they can really have and hold in their hands. And S stands for sensory, or automatically maintained behaviour. But that's often because someone does it because it feels good. Whether it feels good to you is another thing. So sensory behaviour isn't always obviously pleasurable or enjoyable to you, but it is to the person who's experiencing the situation, or they keep going with it. So there are 2 kind of elements to behaviour and the way that we work with behaviour. The first element, which we're focusing on in this webinar, but that we will be talking about the second component too, is understanding behaviour. First, we must understand what drives a behaviour. We call this the function of behaviour. When we have this why, and we really know that we have the right why, we can talk about replacing the behaviour. So that the important thing to remember here is that behaviour can't be eliminated. Once a behaviour is in place and it receives a particular function, then it kind of is self-perpetuating, and then you can't just disappear. People always come to us and like, I want to get rid of a behaviour, and we always have to tell them that you can't get rid of behaviour, but you can replace it and reshape it into something that's much more positive and something that kind of achieves the same results for you and your child, but in a much quicker, easier, and more enjoyable manner for both of you. And that, by making these tweaks, we can really improve the relationship and reduce frustration on both sides of the equation. When we are evaluating and trying to work out the why of behaviour, and we really covered this in detail last week, but we'll touch on it again today, is we look at the ABC of a behaviour. So that is an antecedent, the behaviour, and the consequence. When we look at these 3 components in a chain, we can really start to pick apart why a behaviour, what happens. So the antecedent is anything that precedes the behaviour. Often this could be an instruction, a change of environment, telling a child no, all of that sort of thing. They're all antecedents to a behaviour. Another way to think about antecedents is to think about them as triggers to a situation. And a behaviour is the what that happens. My child runs away, my child has a tantrum, my child yells, or my child listens beautifully and goes and puts their shoes on. And that's all the behaviours, what happens. The consequences are what follows immediately after the behavior. So it's about that really, really close proximity in time, because I think a lot of people think about consequences in the 5 minutes, but in behavior terms, we look at it in a really short kind of time frames, and it's immediately after a behavior. So the consequence is anything that follows the behavior. That could be praise, this could be discipline, it could be a whole variety of things. And often when we look at those three, we can start to get a really nice picture of what's happening and why a child's behaving in the way that they are. So let's flick onto attention specifics, because that's what we're all here for tonight. So attention behavior is behavior that occurs with the aim of a child getting the attention of an individual or a group of people, because I think we've all encountered situations where it's not just about one person's attention, but it's about a whole audience. The thing that we really need to focus on when we're thinking about attention behavior is attention can be nice. It could be praise or a high five or any of those really positive things, spending time with a child. But also attention is challenging things, such as when you're telling a child off, you're often providing them with attention and that one-on-one connection. And attention often seeking looks like defiance or nagging. And those are kind of the two main things that I get from a home front. And I know that, Kellen, you get a lot of it in the schools as well, that it's, that kind of real nagging behavior, or that really, no, I don't want to, I want to do it this way type stuff, and getting into that argument and that dialogue that comes from the situation. But I think the thing that we really want everybody to keep in mind when they think about attention seeking is that children are humans just like the rest of us, and attention seeking can really more constructively be construed as connection seeking. And that's what we always have to keep in mind, that even if we're getting frustrated in a situation, or we're finding a child's behavior really challenging, because we're humans as well, that child is seeking to connect with us, and that they want that one-to-one time, and they want to really, get to know us and really feel that praise or that enjoyment or that focus is on them. And children just want to be seen and heard just like the rest of us. Kenan, do you have anything to add on that situation?
No, I definitely agree with you, Jessica. I think a lot of it too, when we look at it from a teaching perspective, and having been a teacher, kind of knowing that it affects the whole class, the class as a whole. So kind of thinking about how we can shape those behaviors, but also realizing that children are children and some might need more attention than others. So as long as we're really meeting their needs, which we're going to explain a few other strategies for the replacement behavior and specific opportunities to provide for attention seeking in the classroom later, I think will meet every child's needs.
So I think what everybody's here for is, what does attention behavior look like? And can we go through some specific examples with you guys? So kind of 4 really common situations that we see. We've kind of done 2 for the home environment and 2 for the school environment or nursery environment. So I think this is one I see very regularly. My child hits their sibling out of the blue when they were playing nicely. They were sitting there getting along great, having a fantastic time. I was sitting there with my cup of tea, and then for no obvious reason, a fight breaks out. The next one is my child nags me when I'm on the phone. Obviously, with the COVID-19 situation, this has been a particularly challenging time for people. Children want that connection and attention. They're really used to having it in that home environment, and there's a lot more boundaries now in place in these because of the COVID situation. And so parents are getting a lot more nagging behavior. A child in my class knocks down other children's toys during free play. That's a really common one that we see at the nurseries. Children have built a whole beautiful castle with the princess on top and the whole situation. And from then, one child comes in, they're chatting, and it's all going well. And then all of a sudden, someone comes in and whacks down the whole situation. And then finally, a child in my class talks out of turn and challenges myself and his or her peers constantly. And I think that this is a really common situation as well, that people kind of find that they've got that one child who's always speaking up, always speaking out of turn, and just constantly seeking that attention and that one-to-one connection. And it's a really tricky situation because, you know, in classroom environments particularly, you might have up to 30 children and one teacher. And so it's a complex situation to kind of manage. So the one that I would like to start with tonight was my child was trying planes with their sibling whilst I sit at the table. And the behavior that we see is my child hits their sibling out of the blue. Now, the trick to this one is having a look at the consequence. What happens immediately after the behavior? What happens is normally you get up out of your chair, you get down on the ground, you sit down your child, you say it was not very nice, you need to stop that, I want you to go and give the train back to your sibling, and there's a whole conversation that really naturally takes place from this kind of when these things occur. What that shows us is that whilst it might look like your child wants to fight about access to the train, is probably the attention that's feeding this situation. It's not necessarily really obvious from the outset, but I think that if it's a consistent pattern that you're seeing, that your children are playing together and it happens out of the blue and it's always followed by a discussion about behavior, that probably what your child is doing is connection seeking with you, that they're seeing that this is some downtime and they see it as an opportunity to get the focus back onto them. So we're just going to chat through a few replacement behaviors. So the first one, and this feels a bit silly to a lot of people, but it's actually a really great, really simple fix, is to simply teach them to ask for attention. So what this would look like is if your child's playing down the ground, you have the whole situation, someone hits, you go down and you say, oh, I just saw that you hit your sibling. Did you want to talk to mummy? And you provide them with the language. So, okay, you want to talk to mummy? Not a problem. Let's practice it again. You go back to playing. And then instead of hitting, I want you to turn around and be like, mummy, pay me attention. And you tend to find that once we give children that and we reinforce the new pattern, so, you know, you've set the whole situation up, it's kind of like role playing. Okay, not a problem. You go through it and they go, mummy, and you respond. You'll find that that really naturally is much more likely to occur the next time, because what you're doing is teaching children the behavior to get your attention rather than you being sucked into the situation and on the back foot when the behavior occurs. Another one is to look to give positive attention many times throughout the day. So what this is that when your children are playing really nicely and you have that thought in your head that you're like, oh, it's so quiet and wonderful, I love how nicely they're playing together, that you tell them. And it's that simple. Oh, I love the way you two are playing together. It makes me I'm so impressed by both of you and how grown up you are. I love the way you're sharing nicely for me. And so we show them what they're doing well. We give that praise so that they're not seeking it in more negative ways. The final way that we've suggested for this sort of behavior is reducing attention for negative attention-seeking behaviors and increasing praise for positive behaviors. So what this looks like is that a lot of parents get into a big discussion about behavior with their child, especially kind of in the 3, 4, and 5-year-old range. But we know that a lot of children at this age know what they're doing is wrong, and, you know, especially the children who go for the immediate apology, I didn't mean to, mummy. It's a whole conversation that comes up about it, that you don't necessarily, you acknowledge what happened. Okay, you hit your sibling, we don't do that in this house. Instead of hitting our sibling, we can ask mummy for attention. And so you keep the conversation around it really small, and so it doesn't become this big opportunity to engage in attention. And then you go back to what you're doing. And we also often would recommend that you give some attention to the sibling as well. So I'm really positive. I love how nicely you see that you are. And lots of praise and lots of, you know, really showing that you appreciate the positive behavior and that we're not going to pay too much attention to the negative behavior. But we still have to address it, obviously. Kaylin, did you have anything to add?
Just on the front, from a teaching perspective, I think it's a common thing with, what we can do providing positive attention is not just to the student. So we can also notice when other students are exhibiting the appropriate behavior and really praising them. Because I think the more we create that environment in a classroom, the more other students are seeing that, we're having good behaviors and we're getting rewarded for that. Positive reinforcement should be used in all aspects of a classroom in general. It doesn't just have to be with the child exhibiting behavior. It could also be with, you've noticed that another child's doing it really well, and you hope that that one child would then look onto the other child. So just a little add on for that as well.
Thanks so much. So we're going to go through another one that we've been getting a lot in the COVID situation, is the kind of nagging behavior, particularly when you're on the phone. So the antecedent is that you see your child playing really nicely and you think, do you know what, I'm going to call my friend. You pick up your phone, you start the conversation. Behaviour is that your child stops playing and they start following you around the house, nagging and asking for things they really don't need right now. And the consequence is that often that we get frustrated at them and we cut the call short. And so, it leads into this kind of cycle of negativity and frustration. And when we're all working from home at the moment, and we've got lots and lots of calls that we have to take, and these are just unfortunately non-negotiable things. It's not even having a call with your friend. It's having a call, with work. It's having a call with your general practitioner. It could be anybody that you're kind of, having to see remotely at the moment. It can lead to a really frustrating situation for everybody. So there are a few different ways that you can preempt this behavior. So the firstly is grammar rules. Okay, first mummy's going to have a call, and then we're going to play trains together. And so you can even add in a visual for really young children as well. Use just a little picture of the phone and a little picture of the trains. First, I'm going to have a call, then we're going to play trains. And so it's letting them know that whilst you're not available during this period of time, that you will become available shortly and be able to play with them. And it gives them a really nice rhythm to the day. Another suggestion is that you could practice waiting in low attention situations. So what this is that a lot of children need support, especially really young children need support to wait. And so we can practice this situation in low stress situations, where we can kind of flip our attention and give low levels of praise, so that when we really need them to be able to wait well for us, that they're primed and prepped and ready and have that skill in their bag already. Because obviously if you don't know how to wait, being asked to wait is really, really challenging. So this is definitely one thing that we encourage parents to do. And this can be really simple things like practicing waiting at the table for 30 seconds before you have dinner, waiting for a minute before I turn the TV on. You just start with really, really small blocks. You can even be 5 seconds if this is a new skill to your child. And you just build up the time increments slowly, slowly, slowly. And lots of praise, obviously, for successful waiting. The next is that take the data. So look out across reoccurring behaviors across a short time frame so you can recognize it and reduce inadvertently giving attention. So this is a really kind of, again, it goes back to what we talked about in the last couple of weeks, is that you always need to take the data, that A, B, C. If you're having the same situation happening over and over and over again, just writing out your little antecedent behavior consequence on a scrap of paper for 3 or 4 events can really help get that perspective that you need, and really help you be more aware of what's happening throughout the day and what the triggers are for you and your child. And just having that kind of more objective information that you can look to in a calmer period in the evening. You have a sit down, you look at what's happened throughout the day, where the tricky parts were, and kind of gives yourself the space to reflect as a parent or as a practitioner and really provide what the child needs. And then our last tip here is to prime the situation beforehand. This is also a really really simple trick that works really, really well, is just letting your child knowing what's going on. I know you might want to talk to me, but mummy needs to make a call. I'm going to be busy, but when I'm finished, I'll come and talk with you, or I'll come and play with you. And just this really simple way of talking to children, letting them know what they happen. You can do this with really young children, even as young as 18 months. I think we've done this with. Just letting them know really simple language. First, mummy's going to have a call, then she's going to come and play with you. And I'll talk to you when I'm finished. And just talking to them about what's going to happen really helps children learn to self-regulate as well. Obviously, really young children don't have those skills yet, and developmentally they shouldn't have those skills yet. But we can also still give them the space to practice positive behavior. And I think that's something that we're constantly telling people, is to keep talking to your child. So that leads us to the idea of rehearse the outcome you want. And again, I think if you've been following our webinar series, you'll see this one over and over and over again, because it really works. Is that you need to collect the information and work out the why. Practice your replacement behavior in really low stress times. You can't teach new skills when yours or your child's, or both, emotions are really running high. And you need to praise your child if and when they use the replacement behavior you've taught, even if you had to remind them to use it. So if you can see the situation starting to go sideways a little bit, you can remind them of it. You can, remind them, remember, first this, then that. Or you can, let them know, remember, mommy's on a call, but afterwards I'll play with you. And so remind them, and then if they go off and play nicely, wow, that was really so amazing the way you listened to mummy and gave me the space to finish my call. And so just letting them know and always praising them. And when they use the behaviors, even if we had to remind them. Kaylin, from a teacher's perspective, what do you think?
No, I think that's exactly right, Jess. I think it's a lot of practicing the opportunities to get attention appropriately. So when in the classroom, can you practice these opportunities well, and kind of setting the expectation from the beginning of the year, kind of when you set your classroom rules about, if you want attention, what are appropriate ways, and really brainstorming. You can do that from lots of age ranges of, from nursery all the way through, senior school, and it will still work to try to just get them in the idea of, we don't call out or steal toys or things like that, just to get attention and think about more appropriate ways. I think a brainstorming session with children is always super helpful, and they learn a lot from it. And also, as Jess mentioned, through play situations, how can we practice? And we'll have a webinar in a few weeks' time on language through play. So kind of how we can kind of work on building our language and behavior and understanding through play.
So things to remember when we're thinking about attention behavior is always make the focus about teaching a functional behavior. So remember, we can't get rid of behavior, but we can teach new behaviors and replace the old ones that were a bit more challenging. For attention behaviors, this includes skills such as waiting and asking for attention. Lots of praise in naturally occurring moments. So this is the kind of old age, it's a really common thing, is catch them being good. But it works. If you see you're having that moment where you're sitting there and you're listening and you're like, oh wow, they're just playing beautifully, tell them, and they're more likely to do it again. They'll be thrilled to hear that doing something so simple like playing really nicely makes you really happy. And then I think also, as we said before, talk to your child. Let them know what's coming and what's going to happen. By just like adults, children have the space to make better choices and to make more positive and appropriate choices when we let them know what's happening. And they're just like us in that regard. And then finally, remember that the Hatchlings team are always available for consults. You can book via our website, or you can shoot us an email just there if you would like to discuss any more specific issues. But I think we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left for any questions that anybody has for us tonight. So if you'd like to send them through, that would be great. We'll just give you guys a moment and then we can get started on some. We should really start asking for questions sooner. Oh. Okay. Dokey. Let's have a look. So first person says, do you have any advice on attachment issues that lead to attention behaviours? So Kaylin and I are both from a teaching and behaviour backgrounds. We don't have particular experience in attachment issues. So this isn't something we could really advise on. Attachment issues obviously play a really big role and need to be really taken into consideration. So if you have a child who definitely has identified attachment problems, then I would definitely be seeking really specific advice for each individual child, because obviously attachment disorders come in many different forms, and primarily Kaylin and I have historically worked with securely attached children, so that's not something we can really advise. And I'm sorry, just one sec. Thank you for your question though.
This next question, what would you suggest for a child who constantly hits his peers within the setting? I think similarly to, I guess, some of the ways we were talking about replacement behavior, I think we can think about giving a lot of attention for the appropriate behavior. So when he's exhibiting, or he or she is exhibiting good behavior, we can really use that as a way. We can work on a little bit of like emotional understanding about how it actually, and perspective taking about how it is actually making his peer feel. And then teaching the replacement behavior is, he could use his words, or he or she could use his words, or practice waiting and those types of activities within the classroom. And then also just kind of figuring out a way that you're meeting the child's attentional needs, because some children do just need more attention than others.
Another one, this is a really classic situation we've been dealing with a lot recently as well. My 2.5-year-old keeps pushing and hitting my 1-year-old when the 1-year-old tries to play with him. So this is really challenging because you have two kids really close in age, and developmentally you're really hitting the sweet spot, unfortunately, for having that kind of juxtaposition of development, and they're both equally frustrated in the situation. So there are a few things you can do. Is you can prime your child before you start the play and give him a little bit of a script to help. So to the 2.5-year-old, you could be like, okay, we're going to play with our baby brother. He's going to give us some toys. And so really start to get the sibling involved in the play in a kind of planned way, and letting your 2.5-year-old goes, oh, okay, so remember, the 1-year-old's just a little baby. We need to be really patient and really gentle. And then you can kind of model the situation. Your child will probably immediately copy you. So be like, oh, it's a toy. Here you go. And if your 2.5-year-old picks up the toy and copies you, praise straight away. And it's that immediacy. Don't expect them to do it independently at 2.5. Model what you want. And if they copy you, reinforce it. They're more likely to then use that behavior again, because they got the praise. At this point, it might not come it doesn't always come naturally to children to be older siblings and to be gentle and caring and kind towards their siblings. And sometimes it's something that we need to model and reinforce, and then it kind of flows from that point.
I think there's another one in here that says the question, my child hits out for no reason. What can I do to stop this? I think a lot of the time when we're looking back to one of the first slides about ABC, when we're thinking about the consequence, really think about what your behavior and your reaction to what the behavior of the, hitting out for no reason is. So if they're getting it for attention, often it could be because nothing's, it's hard to use the replacement behavior, or they don't have the strategies in place just yet to learn to wait or to use their words in terms of that. So I think when you're doing a little bit of the collect data, which is always super helpful, because I think as a parent, as a teacher, as a clinician, a lot of people, when you use the data, you kind of see a sequence, even over a week, of, all right, this behavior is happening, this is how I'm reacting. And then it becomes a cycle, and children are very smart and they learn very quickly from those cycles and how to, get at you kind
of. Let me just have a look. Sorry. I need to learn how to make this box bigger. My child's behavior changes when there's more than myself and him in the home. So this is the addition of another person to the situation that a lot of children can find quite challenging. And what that is a lot of the time they're seeking the attention, but again, they don't know how to get that attention appropriately from the new adult in the home. So again, using those modeling tactics, okay, so-and-so's coming over. It's going to be really exciting. You're going to feel really excited. You're going to want to, behave in this way when we greet guests, and just giving them that script. Let them know what's going to happen. Tell them what to expect. Give them some ideas and then praise them. And yeah, really that kind of first, then that really structured kind of plan to the situation. And then it also if you want to spend one-on-one time with the other adult and you want your child to play quietly so that you can have, a chat with your friend or whatever it may be, that's all important, especially in the current times where we all need the extra support, is that, letting your child that's going to happen. Okay, they're going to come over and we're going to talk together, and you're going to play with your trains or you're going to play with your iPad for a little bit. And so you just really, again, let them know what's coming, let them know how they can behave, and when you see them doing it, praise them. And maybe you can also get that other adults are just as, we're all knowledgeable to participants, just be like, oh, they were so excited you were coming over. Like, look how nice he's playing, why don't you just tell him? And participate in that kind of thing, and that will really help as well. And it's just that children get really excited with new people coming into the situation, and they just don't know how to manage their emotions. And when they don't know how to manage their emotions, they don't know how to manage their behavior in this situation. I think we've probably got time for one more question, and then we're going to have to go. But I think for next week, we might extend the webinars because we're having lots more questions than we anticipated to get through. So next week, we're going to make the webinar a little bit longer so we can get through more of your questions. Kaylin, do you have any other questions you've picked out?
Sorry, the feed kept going quickly. I have a child in the setting who gets frustrated easily over routines such as tidying up. Although this is a little bit more not so directed towards probably attention-seeking behavior, a little bit more routine-based, I think when we're thinking about that, I think we could go back to the strategies of priming the child, and we can do a lot of grandma's rule, which is first then, and really setting those boundaries and clear language so that they're able to understand when tidy up time is. I think it's a common issue among many children, and tidying up is never a fun thing, but it is just a fact of, being in a, I'm not 100% sure what setting you're in, but say if you were in a classroom setting, that is a big part of knowing the routine in a daily basis. And we have a really great visual on our YouTube of an instruction video about how to use visual schedules as well, which might help for kind of explaining and setting boundaries.
Brilliant. And we saw quite a lot of questions that we didn't get to tonight on emotions and behaviour, and this is something we're going to cover in the following weeks. So stay tuned in, because there will be a webinar on specifically around emotions and managing emotions and behaviour, because that's a really common kind of one that we come across as well. So just letting everybody know, to everybody who attended, there'll be a short survey sent out after this, and we'll be emailing out a free resource in the next 24 hours after for everybody who completes our survey. So if you could do that, that would be much appreciated. Just a little bit of feedback on what we did well, what we did need to improve on, and topic suggestions. Keep your topic suggestions coming in. They're really great. And we're just going to keep getting through all of the topics week by week by week. So next week, we'll be dealing with the T in EATS of behaviour, so tangible. That's about tangible access to items or objects. So thank you from the whole team. You can visit us at our website, at our YouTube, or on our Facebook. And thank you so much for coming tonight. It was lovely to see you all, and we will be uploading this to YouTube after, so feel free to watch that there as well. Thanks very much, everyone.